It was just past dawn on April 12, 2026, when newsrooms across the globe erupted. CNN's red ticker flashed, breaking U.S. Navy orders unprecedented, one-way operation in Strait of Hormuz. Panic swept financial markets. Military analysts scrambled for answers. In Washington, tense faces gathered behind closed doors. The world watched live feeds of destroyers slicing through dark waters. Aboard the USS Mason, sailors prepared for the unknown. The word "one way" echoed in every briefing. No one outside the Pentagon seemed certain what it meant. Social media surged with speculation. Some said it was a rescue, others whispered about a strike. Reporters tried to reach family members of the deployed. One mother, her voice trembling on camera, said, "They told us not to expect them back soon." The mission's secrecy fueled fear. Even seasoned defense experts admitted they had never seen anything quite like this. As the sun rose above the Persian Gulf, every eye was on the narrow blue ribbon of water that could change the course of history overnight. The USS Mason led a small strike group, her hull slicing through choppy waters. Behind her, the guided missile cruiser USS Monterey and two support vessels moved in tight formation. Each ship's decks bristled with men and women at battle stations. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of salt. Commander Rachel Torres, the Mason's captain, spoke quietly over the intercom. "This is not a drill. We hold this line for more than ourselves." Every sailor wore body armor and carried extra rations. The order was clear: no turning back unless directly commanded by Washington. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest. Hundreds of fishing boats and tankers crowded the passage, making it a labyrinth for warships. Iranian patrol boats shadowed the Americans, keeping just out of missile range. Radar screens glowed, tracking every blip. Eyes strained for threats above and below the water. For the crew, the mission felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. Each second ticked by with the weight of the world pressing on their shoulders. In Navy parlance, a one-way mission is as grim as it sounds. Ships and crews are sent forward with no guarantee of return. Sometimes, they're ordered to hold ground or block a passage at any cost. It's a last resort, a message that failure is not an option. The sailors knew the stakes. Some quietly wrote letters home, stuffing them into sealed envelopes. "We are expendable for a reason," one petty officer said to her friend, voice steady but eyes red. The purpose of their sacrifice was not yet clear, but the commitment was absolute. Orders came down. No ship would reverse course without explicit White House approval. Fuel was rationed. Supply lines stretched thin. The destroyers were loaded with extra munitions, but not enough for a prolonged battle. They would block the strait, whatever it took. For the men and women aboard, one way was more than a mission descriptor. It was a pronouncement. They were the line in the sand, and they knew it. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most vital oil artery. Every day, over 20% of global oil passes through this narrow channel. One side belongs to Iran, the other, Oman. The water is shallow, the currents tricky. Geopolitics here are as turbulent as the seas. For decades, navies have watched this strait like hawks. Any closure, even for a day, can send oil prices skyrocketing. In these waters, the U.S. Navy's presence is both deterrent and invitation. No warship moves without being tracked. The threat of mines, missiles, and drones is constant. Iran's Revolutionary Guard controls dozens of high-speed attack boats. Anti-ship missiles sit hidden along the coast, aimed at passing tankers and destroyers. Submarines lurk in the depths. The U.S. Navy's sonar pings echo through the hull, searching for unseen dangers. In this powder keg, even a single misstep can trigger a global crisis. The Mason's crew knew what was at stake with every mile they traveled. As the American task force moved deeper into the strait, Iranian fast boats buzzed closer. The Mason's crew braced for an engagement. "All hands, weapons free," Commander Torres ordered. Sailors manned rail-mounted machine guns and missile launchers. Every eye was fixed on the horizon. Radio chatter crackled with warnings in Farsi and English. An Iranian captain's voice boomed, "Turn back or face consequences." The Americans held their course. Above, U.S. Navy helicopters patrolled, watching for drones or mines. The narrowness of the passage left no room for error. Sudden movement on the radar sent a jolt through the bridge. Two unidentified vessels darted in from the Iranian side. The Mason's chief of operations barked, "Target acquired! 50 yards and closing!" For a moment, it seemed the shooting would start, but the intruders peeled away, leaving nerves on edge. In these moments, the line between diplomacy and disaster was razor thin. Every decision was a gamble with global ramifications. For weeks, US intelligence had intercepted coded messages. Satellite images showed unusual activity near Iran's coastline. Analysts at the Pentagon pieced together a chilling possibility: a plan to mine the strait and cut off oil flow to the west. The economic shock could cripple markets in a matter of days. On April 10th, a drone spotted Iranian vessels deploying canisters, mines, disguised as fishing equipment. The President's Security Council met an emergency session. The order was swift: send a task force to hold the strait open, no matter the cost. It was a desperate move, but the alternative was worse. The one-way order was not a bluff. If Iran attacked, the ships might not survive. But if they failed to act, the world's energy supply would be held hostage. The mission was a shield for every nation dependent on oil, an act of silent defiance against blackmail. The real reason was not just deterrence. It was to buy time for diplomatic and military backup, to mobilize, and to keep the world's heartbeat, the flow of oil, unbroken. The crew endured sleepless nights. Below decks, Petty Officer Jason Lin recounted, "You can feel the tension in the air. Every clang of metal makes you jump." The mess hall was quiet. Laughter was rare. Some played cards in silence, others wrote in journals. Every sailor coped in their own way. Chief Engineer Amanda Brooks kept the engines running despite constant alerts. "We train for this, but nothing prepares you for the real thing," she said. On the bridge, Commander Torres met with her officers each hour. Her orders were calm, but her eyes betrayed the pressure she felt. "We will not be the ones who blink," she told them. At night, the horizon lit up with flares and the faint glow of distant cities. Sailors stood watching shifts, scanning for anything unusual. "You trust the person next to you with your life," said Seaman Grant, gripping his rifle. "We're all in this together." Every hour they held the line, the world ran a little smoother. Their sacrifice was invisible, but it was real. News of the mission sent oil prices soaring. Governments called urgent meetings. NATO offered support, while China and Russia condemned the provocative action. In the Gulf, Allied ships rushed to reinforce the Americans. The message was clear: the world would not allow the strait to be closed. Back in Washington, diplomats scrambled to open back channels with Tehran. The Pentagon activated rapid response units in Europe and the Middle East. Cyber teams monitored for attacks on infrastructure. Every nation with a stake in energy watched the strait, holding its breath. Markets reacted instantly. Tanker companies rerouted ships. Insurance premiums for Gulf routes doubled overnight. The global economy teetered on the edge, with the fate of billions resting on the actions of a handful of sailors. The one-way mission was more than a show of force. It was a signal to every nation: the world's arteries would be defended, whatever the cost. In the days that followed, Iran backed down, quietly withdrawing its mine-laying boats. The US task force remained on station, battered but unbroken. The world breathed a sigh of relief. Oil shipments resumed their normal flow. Diplomats began to talk of new agreements to prevent future crises. For the sailors of the USS Mason and her sister ships, the mission had left scars. Some were sent home as heroes, others stayed behind, ever vigilant. The Navy reviewed its protocols, preparing for the next test. Commander spoke openly about the need for readiness and resolve. The real lesson was clear. In a world of rising tensions and shrinking margins for error, the courage and discipline of a few could tip the balance. The one-way mission had worked, but only because those aboard were willing to risk everything. The Strait of Hormuz remained a flashpoint, but now, the world knew what it took to keep the peace, and who paid the price for it.